KNRS News brought to you by Justin UD Real Estate. I'm Abby Bonnell. It's 6:03. U.S. officials skeptical a hydrogen bomb was tested by North Korea, but some type of nuclear test was conducted. The blast vibrations were recorded right here in Utah by seismologists. Reaction from Utah Congressman Chris Stewart.
Well, I don't think we need to be scared, but I think we need to be concerned, and I think the administration has to take adequate steps.
The Utah Republican calling the North Korean regime dangerous and unpredictable. Utah Senator Mike Lee calling President Obama's gun control measures troubling.
Why he was pretending to be doing something so big, it's not yet clear what he's got in mind. I don't know what he has in mind. But to the extent that he's trying to define somebody who just casually sells a gun to a friend or a neighbor as a federal firearms dealer, if that's where he goes, we're going to have big problems.
Lee appearing on Rod Show tonight, referring to President Obama's plan to close a gun show loophole. A rare strain of hepatitis C has been found in the blood of some patients treated by a nurse working at Ogden McKay Hospital in Ogden, also Davis Medical Center. The nurse was dismissed last year after she was found to have the disease and exposed potentially more than 7,000 patients. Only 2,500 patients who were sent letters have undergone testing. The Utah Department of Health has not released numbers yet, only confirming some of those test results are positive. KNRS News at the top and bottom of the hour. You'll find it anytime at knrs.com.
All right, I am so excited that we're going to have a chance to talk about this each and every week. You know, over the years, last several years, I've gotten to know this guy, and he's a pretty smart guy. I can't believe I'm saying that, but he is. And I'm talking about Boyd Matheson. Boyd has been working with Utah Senator Mike Lee for a number of years during his term in the Senate and has developed many of the policies and working with the senator as to where the Republican Party needs to go. He's also very astute when it comes to looking at politics in general, and that's why I wanted to set up this weekly chat with Boyd Matheson and talk about the 2016 election, a very, very important one, and he's joining us on our Newsmaker line right now. Was I too kind to call you one of the smartest guys I've met in a long time?
I just want you to send that to my wife.
Boyd, I'm looking so forward to these chats. It's going to be an interesting year, isn't it?
It is. It's going to be fascinating. There's so many things, and we're just warming up. You know, we've turned into January, and the Iowa caucus is in sight, and that'll be rapidly followed by New Hampshire and South Carolina, and then Nevada, which will play interesting as well. And so there's a lot of plots, subplots that are coming, and there's never been a more important election, I think, in our lifetimes for sure.
Boyd, let's take a look at your assessment, the state of the race right now in 2016. First of all, on the Republican, I think the Democratic side is pretty well decided. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, it's going to be Hillary.
Yes, I think the Democrats are decided, and it's a very interesting thing. I don't know if you've picked up on this, but I would say that the Democrats' new mantra is to hide Hillary. Their last Democratic debate was on a Saturday night. Their next debate, I don't know if you noticed this, their next debate is on a Sunday night in the middle of the NFL playoffs. So I think they're going into the Hillary protection program pretty early on the Democratic side.
Several months ago, Hillary called herself a moderate Democrat and was proud of it. Last night, with Chris Matthews, she couldn't, define the difference between a socialist and a Democrat, and she said, look, she's a progressive Democrat. What the heck does that mean?
I have no idea, and it's an interesting thing. I think it's an important lesson for the Republicans, is that the media is going to guard, defend, protect Hillary and her camp all the way through. And so I think before we even talk about the Republicans, the first thing the Republicans need to do is not run against Hillary, because you can't win that fight. So what we need to do instead is run on what we are for, our vision of the country, our policies that have lifted more people out of poverty than any set of principles in the history of the world. Because if we focus on fighting against Hillary, we will lose. We'll lose badly, and it's really why we've lost 5 out of the last 6 presidential popular votes.
Why will we lose if you run against Hillary?
So if you're running against her, you have enough of the Democratic base who's just going to be there and show up. The American people are not inspired by what we are against. It is a classic Ronald Reagan focus of what are we for? Tell me what you're for, and we can have a real meaningful dialogue. You can't inspire people with what you're against. And Reagan learned that. I think the real lessons of Reagan happened between 76 and 79, when he took all the things that he was against in the 76 election and transformed them into this positive vision for America and what he was for. And that's why he won in 1980.
What do you make of the state of the GOP race right now, Boyd?
So if we start at the top of the polls, you have to equate what's happening with Donald Trump, and I honestly think Donald Trump is nothing more than a manifestation of the frustration of the American people and how desperate the American people are to be led, to have a real leader standing at the head. I often say that Donald Trump is actually biblical. You go all the way back to the children of Israel, and they were so desperate to have a leader, to have something in front of them, that they were willing to settle for a golden cow. Currently, we're settling for a golden hairdo with Donald Trump, but it really shows that the people want to be led, and I believe what they want is a smart fighter. I don't think Donald Trump is a smart fighter. He's just a fighter. But in the absence of real leadership and a real smart fighter, the American people will accept that. But I think Donald Trump's arc will continue, and I think it will be in the arc of one of his reality TV shows. As he starts to move towards Iowa, the people start to get a little serious. And again, this is dependent on one of the other Republicans coming out as a smart fighter with an agenda. You'll see that arc go, and he'll start to dip. He'll lose in Iowa. He'll probably lose in New Hampshire. And then he's going to have to do what he does in his reality TV shows, and that is get even more crazy and more outlandish. And I think that's where the wheels eventually come off. Mm-hmm. But all of that is dependent on one of the other candidates stepping forward as a smart fighter with a real agenda. Has
anybody emerged, as you describe him, as a smart fighter yet? Be it Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, anyone else, Chris Christie, anyone out there right now?
I think what you're going to see is, I think in the end it will likely be a Cruz-Rubio battle. They both have those tendencies, although Chris Christie's starting to do some things that make some sense. And interestingly, Carly Fiorina still has an interesting play in there, even though she's very low in the poll numbers. She's one that could come across with that. But definitely Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio are at the top. I do worry a little bit that Marco may be starting to get consulted into the smart wimp category, and that's going to be something to watch. And really watch with all the campaigns. The amazing thing is the Republicans keep hiring the same people to run the presidential campaigns. It's kind of like the NBA, where you just recycle all the old bad coaches, but you just move them around the board. And for a party that has lost so many elections over the last 2 decades, it's amazing we keep going back to these same people. And unfortunately, what they do is they create this smart wimp mentality. And you just see that over. Jeb Bush has become a smart wimp. Scott Walker, who was definitely a smart fighter, ended up out of the race because he was consulted into being so cautious, so careful, just saying what people want to hear and just going along to get along, that he lost traction and ultimately lost it. So, but I do think Rubio has a clear shot there. I do think Ted Cruz has a shot there as well, and then maybe a Carly or even a Governor Christie, I think, still has a chance to go out with a message that could catch fire.
Are Jeb Bush and Ben Carson done?
I think they're done. I just don't see any path for either one of them. Very nice guys. Jeb Bush governed as a conservative in Florida and did some very good things. But he will be the test case. He will be the case in the college classes in the years ahead of, here's a guy that had all the money, had all the connections, had everything teed up. If you even just look at his body language right now, when he's up there talking, even when he's making a positive statement, he's shaking his head side to side. He's sending all these negative cues. If I were advising Jeb Bush right now, I would say throw your consultants out the door, sit down for 4 hours and write what you want to talk about, and then take the next 2 weeks and just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that'll happen.
Interesting, isn't it? Well, Boyd, it's going to be fun every week. I mean, I want to talk about, I think a story that hasn't been reported so far, I think it will be, is the effort by the GOP to maintain control of the Senate. There's a battle out there, isn't there?
Yes. Yeah, the Senate is going to be crucial, and I think it will be ultimately tied to our presidential nominee. But there's some real critical battles. The Republicans have a lot of seats to defend, and that's not easy, and not a whole lot of opportunities to pick up other than maybe Nevada with Harry Reid retiring. I think that one could go Republican. But it's going to require the Republican Party to really come out and be unified in terms of a message and a vision. And that's going to be the real test, because we haven't done that well. We have not told stories well. We have not invited the American people to be part of the process, even going all the way back to Mitt Romney. I think he lost because he didn't tell a story and invite the American people to come along and be part of it. And so that's going to be an interesting thing. In fact, here's a really interesting thing. The Pope said something interesting the other day. He said, story is more important than facts. And story invites discernment, where when we're just laying out the facts, it only leads to discussion. And that's why someone like a Marco Rubio, who is so good at inspiring people and helping people catch that vision. Cruz can do that in flashes, but we're a country that is about a story. We're the great American story. And I think most of our problems that we face are because we've become disconnected from that story. We've disconnected who we are with the things that we do every day. And I think it's going to take that kind of leader to hold the Senate, to capture the White House, and to really move the country forward.
Well, it's going to be an interesting year, Boyd, and that's why I'm so looking forward to chatting with you once a week. Hey, man, thank you. Appreciate it, and talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks, Rod. Talk to you soon.
All right. That is Boyd Matheson, former Chief of Staff for Utah Senator Mike Lee, and now a political strategist. We'll have Boyd on every Wednesday at 6:05, talking about the race and what's going on. And we'll talk about nationally. We'll talk about that battle over the Senate. We'll talk about the House. And we'll talk certainly about local races and what needs to take place there. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of local races, Jonathan Johnson has made a decision when it comes to running for governor. We'll talk to him about that next here on the Rod Arquette Show. Right now, let's get as we head to the news center right now, let's get a news update with Abby. Abby?